All right, so I can't see any of the questions on that side, so I guess we'll just get right into it. Hopefully you can see me all right. So pretty much what's going to happen, I'll just introduce myself, and then I'll go over what's going on in the market a little bit. I will go over the 6 steps of buying a home. I'll go over 3 myths that people have about buying a home, and then I will also be doing a Q&A at the end. So when I get to that, I'll turn the camera around. Hopefully I don't miss too many of your questions as we're going through it. I don't even know if anyone's on here, so I'm just talking to myself right now. But yeah, let me see. I've just got a couple notes over here just for getting into this. Never done this before, so if you see me looking at my notepad, just bear with me a little bit. I guess just a little bit about me and what we do here at the Bulava Group. So my name is Matt Bulava. I just graduated from the University of Iowa back in spring. I got my license in, I think, May of 2024. I worked for a summer with my dad. He was showing me the ropes. That's my partner, Dave Bulava. And then while I was at school, I would drive back on the weekends to lease up apartments in the city of Chicago. So since graduating school, I've been focused on home buyers and sellers, specifically people who have a home to sell while they're also buying a home too. But for this specific video, we're going to be focused on first-time buyers. However, a lot of things are similar if you own a home and are going to be buying as well. So if you stick around to the end, I have a special offer just for the people staying on here. So hopefully this isn't too long and I have time to do a Q&A at the end. So as you can see behind me, ask questions. I think there should be a question button. So hopefully when I get back there, I can see all the questions that you guys have. Like I said, just for a quick overview, we're going to go over the current market in DuPage County. We're going to go over 3 myths for home buyers when they're buying a home, the 6 steps that actually go into buying a home, and a Q&A, like I said, which I've said a couple times now. So up first, in the last 3 months in DuPage County, for detached single-family homes, the average days on market for sold homes has been 25, which is up from like the same time last year. So that's a sign that things are slowing down. Some of the other data I'm going to point out will show that as well. But right now there's 1.1 months of inventory, which is up. If you don't know, we've had record low inventory in the Chicago suburbs here for the last couple of years, ever since rates went way down. So inventory is ticking up slightly, and that actually ties into the pending ratio. So there's 509 homes for sale in DuPage County right now, and 349 of those are actually pending under contract, which is a 41% pending ratio. Anything below 50% means that inventory is slowly building. There's more homes coming to market that are going under contract. So that's also up. The pending ratio is down. The number of homes for sale is up. So average days on market for sold homes, 25 days, and then they're actually getting 99.8% of the list price to the sold price, which is also down. So if you remember back a couple of years ago, homes were selling way over asking price. It's starting to turn a little bit. I remember looking at the data where it was like 103%. Homes are going 103% over the asking price. That's starting to tick down. Now that also could be seasonal. Here in the Chicago suburbs, things slow down in the winter, and then they pick back up, late February, early March. So that's one of the things that we're actually going to cover a little bit is people trying to time the market, and it really is super dependent on actually the kind of home you're looking at, because real estate is just a perfect example of supply and demand. So if there's 3 homes for sale on one street, there's going to be more supply. And the demand's going to be pretty similar as well. So it might be a little easier to get a home if there's more for sale on that one street. So real estate is super, not just on a broad scale, but DuPage County, one town is different from another. One side of the street is different than the other side of the street. For example, where I live is kind of right on the corner of Glen, Ellyn. The street behind me is Wheaton. So even comparing homes on other sides of the block, you're going to get totally different results. So when it comes down to really buying, which we'll get into more, it really depends on your current financial situation and what kind of home you're going after. The homes that need a little bit of love, a little bit of work, are not selling as quickly as the homes that are move-in ready. So we'll get into all of that. But hopefully that's a good overview on the market a little bit, what we can expect going into spring, just from the conversations I've been having, and the data kind of points to this as well. It's going to be a pretty hectic spring. I think a lot of people have been, sitting, like you've got a lot of people at 3% mortgages, and mortgages were at 7%. Those people didn't want to move. I don't blame them. But now that rates have come down a little bit, I think we dipped below 6% for a minute the other day, but they're floating right around 6% now. Who knows what rates are going to do, but kind of the general consensus is that they're going to come down a little bit the next year. I bet someone's going to be asking questions, how low do I think they're going to go? I don't know. I left my crystal ball at home. But pretty much, you should only be buying if you're, if you're comfortable with the payments right now. You don't really want to be stretching yourself to get into a home. A home should add stability, not stress. So we'll get into all of that. But one of the first myths, like I was talking about, is waiting for the market to get better. Like I said, real estate is a super, location-specific kind of business. Perfect example of supply and demand. So waiting for the market to get better. If you wait for spring, there's going to be more homes for sale. So you are going to have more options, but there's also going to be more buyers out there. So you're going to have more competition. What it really comes down to is get in the buyer mindset, start touring homes, because you don't know what you like or don't like or what you're going to find. And when you work with us, you'll probably find some better properties because it's part of what we do. So stay to the end for a special offer about that. Myth number 2 is going to be waiting until you can afford your dream home. I've seen this time and time again where people wait to get into the home that they would love. Say it's $750,000. It takes them years to save up for that down payment, while prices have also rose. The people who really end up in the dream homes that they want start off in a starter home. Okay, you have to get out of the mindset of thinking that you need what your parents or grandparents have at 60, 70 years old. In your 20s or 30s. The median age of the first-time home buyer is about 38 years old, I believe it was, which is, whatever it is, it's the highest it's ever been. So people are saving longer for that dream home, their forever home. But the people who really get those homes are the people who buy early and in a great area, get some appreciation, and can roll that equity into a bigger property. Myth number 3 brings me to a bigger down payment is always better. This is not always the case. So, of course, if you have a bigger down payment, you're going to have less risk. Also, if you're at 20%, you're going to have no private mortgage insurance. So, things to weigh. But if you have say for example, the house was $500,000 and you were planning on putting down 20%, that's $100,000. But say you could qualify to put down as little as 3%, but you had the money saved up, you could put the difference into fixing up the property and forcing your appreciation into equity growth that way. So it really is dependent on your situation, and this really annoys a lot of people whenever we're talking about this, because if you ask me a question, I'm going to be like, it depends. But it really does depend on your situation and also the specific property that you're looking at, the specific area. There's a whole lot of nuance to just buying a home. So that's why I'm doing this video. So my tip, right, if I were to be going back, be a first-time buyer, not going back, but what I would do would be to buy in the absolute best neighborhood that you can afford. So there's a different kind of way to get into neighborhoods, which we won't really talk about today, but there's like A-class neighborhoods, B-class, C-class, D-class neighborhoods. So try and get into the absolute best neighborhood that you can afford. Buy the smallest house there and let the more expensive, nicer homes pull your values up. Because if you buy the nicest home in, say, a not so nice neighborhood, you're kind of going to be the top of the market, and there's going to be no way for you to really get that extra appreciation. It's also one of the reasons that, for example, condos don't see as much appreciation as single-family homes, because condos are super, the appreciation is super specific to that building. Where if you're looking at a single-family home, you have a bit of a bigger range that you can pull from because there's a little bit more variety in the property. And when you start getting, so if you can buy, what you can afford in the nicest neighborhood that you can, that would be the first thing. And then also, I would try and go minimum down. Depending on your credit, this is going to be 3%, 5%. in that range. And I would use the extra money that I have saved up to fix up the property to get more on par with some of the nicer homes in the area. This is where we're going to start seeing a lot of equity growth, and then you can roll that into, maybe a nicer home in the same neighborhood. There's a lot of different strategies, and like I said, it always depends on your situation and your goals for real estate. That's personally what I would be trying to do in this market, because the homes that need a little bit of work are sitting longer than the homes that are totally fixed up. And like I said, fix it up. So that would be my take. Now, let's get into the 6 steps of actually buying a home. So I'm going to put this down. Your first step is going to be to hire an agent. Okay, if it's not me, wow, my handwriting is not very good. This is going to be a long live stream. If it's not me, I'm not going to take it personally. But first step is going to be to hire an agent. After that, you're going to want to get pre-approved. You're going to want to meet with a lender, get pre-approved. This is different than a pre-qualification. I'll get into that as we go through these. After that, you're going to start seeing homes. Then, after you're seeing homes, you're going to want to put an offer in. You can't get a home if you don't put an offer in, so you want to do that. So we'll go over offers. Then we'll actually go over inspections. This is a really big part of the home buying process, the inspections, because you want to know this is going to be one of the biggest investments that you're going to make probably throughout your life. So you want to know what you're getting into, and maybe back out if some really bad things come up. We'll get into it. And then after that, it's going to be actually your closing. So these are the 6 steps in buying a home. Now, when it comes to hiring the right agent, it's more important to, if you're going to hire a bad agent, you're probably better off, not having an agent at all. So you want to this is someone who's going to be helping you make the biggest purchase of your life. So you want to make sure that you're connecting with the right person. And how you can do that is, for one, the first thing it really comes down to, is this someone that you can connect with? Is this person going to be honest with you when they're telling you, hey, this home, probably isn't the best fit for you, or are they going to try and push you into just closing a sale? That's probably the most important. You don't want to be working with someone who doesn't have your best interest in mind. It's kind of our job, but you wouldn't believe, I'm not here to bash other realtors, but make the right decision for you. Also, you're going to want someone who can back up what they say. If they say they're going to do something, do they have a track record of actually doing those things? Now, while it's perfectly okay to give someone new a shot, just be wise in it. I'm sure if you were to just go online, you can look up questions to ask your realtor when you're interviewing them to see if they're a good fit. Look those up when you're starting to meet with realtors. Another key point when you're doing this, think about the home buying process taking about 4 months, right? We're going to want to meet with an agent, then we're going to be touring homes, then we're going to be under contract, and then we're going to be closing. So with that gives you about a 1 month or 4 to 6 weeks of actually searching for a home. Who knows how long it's going to take you? So bet on meeting with a realtor at least 4 months before you'd like to close. So say you have a new job starting in September. It's probably wise to start meeting with them in May or April. The earlier the better, because that leads me into the next one. You're going to want to meet with a lender and get pre-approved. You shouldn't be out looking at homes if you don't actually know what you can afford, because it's not just the total payment, it's the monthly payment as well. So if you're looking at a home in Wheaton versus Glen, Ellyn, it's a $500,000 home. The monthly payments on those are actually going to be significantly different based on the property taxes, whether you're in an HOA or not. So you want to get kind of the full picture of what you can afford, and get the full picture of what you can afford, even down to the monthly payment. So before you go look at properties, before you fall in love with one, you find out you can't afford it. That would be pretty heartbreaking. The difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification is a pre-approval is going to be fully underwritten. A pre-qualification is just going to be over the phone. They're going to ask you a couple questions. You're not really going to have to provide any documentation. So if you mistakenly tell them the wrong information, say you tell them your net income versus your gross income, that could affect how much you're approved for, because this is a good note for you in case you don't know. It's always off of the gross income, because everyone's deductions and what they take home is different. So the gross income is what you're going to get pre-approved off of. So pre-approval, fully underwritten. You're also going to want to have this, depending on how long your home search is, updated throughout the process so you can be providing the most recent form of financial strength. Part of this as well is when you meet with a lender, they're going to help you understand if there's simple things that you can do to afford more homes. So maybe you need to pay off a line of credit, or maybe you have some student loans, or maybe you have a car payment. You know, if you can knock off some of those things, they'll let you. I'm not an expert in that stuff. That's why I say meet with a lender. We have a couple that we refer people to, and it really comes down to personal preference, who you jive with, kind of like the agent. So we refer people to professionals. It comes down to personal preference. And another key point in why you would want to use a lender versus a big bank. If you use a local lender, it's a little bit different being able to like walk in the office and meet with them if something's going on versus a big bank. You know, if you're, just think of any big bank, not gonna name drop. But for one, they're closed on weekends typically, and after 5 p.m. Well, when are you most likely gonna be looking at homes? It will be after 5 p.m. when you get off work, and it's gonna be on weekends when you're not working. So it's kind of like the opposite of what you would want as a buyer, because if you really love a home, hey, send me that pre-approval, I want to put an offer in. So if you work with a local a lender, they're going to be more available to you most of the time. And there's also a little bit of a different relationship when you can actually go into someone's office and meet with them face-to-face versus someone you just got kind of assigned to over the phone. And if you go to a big bank, they're just going to use their rates. Where if you go to a broker, they're going to shop around and find you the best programs for your financial situation. And there are a lot of programs out there. I should make this as like a fourth myth. People think that maybe they can't afford a home. If you meet with a lender, they're going to show you a whole bunch of ways that you might be able to afford a home, right? There's grants out there. VA, for example. Oh, that's what I should get into, is all the different kinds of financing. So we'll do that. There's conventional, which is going to be anywhere from like 3% down at the minimum. And what's cool about going conventional is once you get to 20% equity, you can actually knock off the PMI. Where people get that confused is with FHA. So FHA is usually going to be about 3.5% down. That's from the Federal Housing Administration. You can usually have higher like debt to income ratios than a conventional loan. And then the income requirements are also a little bit different as well. So it's usually a little more forgiving, but it really does depend on your financial situation, your credit score, everything like that. So when you do 3.5% down FHA, you never really get rid of the PMI. It's always on there unless you refinance out of that into, say, a conventional loan. The last one would be VA. VA, you can do 0% down and finance 100% of the purchase, which is actually pretty cool and awesome for our veterans. Where they're out taking care of us, they can be making some gains in the real estate market. So we have lenders that we work with on all of these different kinds of programs. There's more than that. There's a lot more than that, but those are the basic three that you need to know about. Conventional, FHA, VA. If you're not a veteran, you don't really have to worry about VA. You've got conventional and FHA. Hopefully that covers all that. I'm going to see if we have any questions going on, or if anyone's even on here. Hey, we got 2 people on here. Look at that. No one asked any questions, though. Ask questions, guys. After that, we're going to want to see homes. This is where it's really important to break down what is a must-have, what's a need versus a want. So maybe you do want 5 bedrooms and 4 full bathrooms and a 3-car garage. Maybe you plan on growing your family into that space. But is that really a need? You should always be, the best moves are kind of ones that are focused around the needs, and the National Association of Realtors actually did a report about this. For this year's reports, the National Association of Realtors report of buyers and sellers. So this was 2025's, and people almost every single time compromise on the size of the home, the style of the home, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, if it's got a finished basement versus an unfinished basement. People compromise on all of that. What they don't compromise on is typically the location. It's pretty cliche in real estate, location. You see it in the way your property appreciates, and you also see it in the way that buyers buy. The location is worth a lot, and that's one thing that people don't really compromise when you're seeing homes, typically what's going to happen is your agent is going to set you up on an automated property search. And in that, you're going to start getting alerts as soon as a property hits the market. Also, another thing that your realtor is going to do, it depends on the realtor, but for example, like if you were to work with us, we'll get what your buyer wish list would be, and say it's a 3-bed, 2-bath ranch in Wheaton. We're going to start advertising those needs on the internet to other brokers, and we're going to start calling homeowners. Because sometimes you can find pretty motivated homeowners when someone's dangling a carrot with some money. They're like, yeah, I'll get out of here for that amount of money. So that's a good way, especially in this low inventory market, right? I said we had 1.1 months of inventory. When you work with us, we have kind of a private list of inventory that we've developed. And then can continue to develop based on your needs. So that's one of the cool things there. It's really important to see homes. You don't want a realtor like pushing you into, you see 3 homes and they're like, oh, this is all that's out there, you want to buy them. You don't know what you don't know. The 4th house might be the one where you realize that you actually really like having, I don't know, this in your home versus, maybe you find out you need an extra bathroom or whatever. So take your time searching for homes. Don't let anyone push you into a big financial decision. And, tour as many as you can. That's what we're here for. Key thing, actually, is when you are touring homes, there's kind of a system that I like to follow. You can do your own thing. I start on the outside of the house. So if someone were to ask me, good news or bad news, I would say bad news. But for some reason, when people are searching for homes, they walk through the house, they fall in love with it, and then it turns out the foundation's got a huge crack and it's going to be expensive to fix. So people go fall in love with the homes, and then they find out something that maybe they don't like, and it kind of is not fun, obviously. So I like to go the other way around. Start at the outside of the house. We're going to be looking at the AC unit, the roof, the siding. Is the ground sloping towards the house, so there's water issues. Water is the enemy of your home. You don't want water. So start at the outside. Then once I get in the house, I actually like to go look in the basement. I'm looking for foundation cracks. I'm looking for the ages of major appliances like your furnace and your water heater. And then I'm going to be looking at the electrical panel. How old is the electric? Are we going to need an upgrade? Do you drive an electric car and this only has 100 amps of service? It's going to charge pretty slow. We might want to upgrade that, which isn't too expensive to do. But these are the things I'm looking at. Also the plumbing. Is this old galvanized steel or do we have copper in there? So I like to look at all the things that I like to get a good sense of what is it going to cost to get this home to where I want it. And odds are you've probably already looked at the pictures online. You've probably looked at the area on Google Maps. You kind of know if it's a fit or not. So let's go in and look for problems. That's the number one thing when we're looking at homes, because you can pretty much change anything about a home except for the location, and you can do anything. It's just going to cost money. So you can do whatever you want to a home. Like you don't like the paint color, let's not sweat the small stuff because we can paint. There's that. So say you find a home that you really like. It's that 3-bed, 2-bath ranch with with everything you want. We're going to want to put an offer in. Now, when we come to the offer process, it's important to have your pre-approval, and that's why you want to work with a lender, so you can reach out to them kind of at any time. I need a drink. Written offers. You're going to want to first evaluate the area. The list price is not what a home is always going to sell for. You have to remember that the list price is just an invitation. And this is another thing. People often feel bad about submitting a low offer. If a home is priced wrong initially, and you do some comps, and don't feel like you're lowballing it if the data supports a different number. So that's why it's really important to look at all the homes that have sold in the area that are like that home. Going into comps is like a whole. I could do a whole other hour-long video about running comps, but you want to run comps. You want to submit a strong offer, and I've got a couple notes here about offers, actually. There's different terms in an offer. So for some sellers, the price is not always the most important thing. Maybe it's going to be some of the terms like the closing date, or what kind of contingencies are in the offer. How much earnest money, how confident are they that the deal can close? How confident are they in your agent, your representation, that they can get the deal done? goes into that too, is having the right lender. If your agent and lender have a good relationship, that's a strong team behind you that can make sure the deal stays on track. And then also throw into the mix the attorney. We're gonna need a good attorney too. We've got all those people. So if you need recommendations, just let us know. But it all starts with putting together a strong offer. Your agent is gonna advise you on what makes a strong offer. So it depends on the market what you can do. When homes were going super over ask, people were doing things like appraisal gap coverage, escalation clauses, 100% earnest money, closing as quick as possible, whatever it may be. What your agent's going to do is they're going to talk to the other agent and fish out as much information as they can. If it's a good listing agent, they're going to be pretty tight-lipped on the situation because they don't want to give up all their sellers' cards. But it's going to be up to your agent to see what kind of information they can get. Maybe we're going to go look at some of the tax records on the home. We're going to see how long they've owned it. Start thinking about the things that are prompting this move. How urgent is this move? Is there a divorce they need to get out of the house? Are they selling this house to go into assisted living? Are they just upgrading? Like, do they not really need to move, but they want to? There's a whole bunch of different things. Motivation is a huge factor when writing your offers. Let's talk about contingencies a little bit in your offers. Kind of in a market like we're going to be coming into here in the spring, a home sale contingency and a home close contingency. Those are two different things. A home sale contingency is when your home doesn't have an offer on it yet. You want to buy a home, but you have to sell your home and it doesn't have an offer on it yet. That's a home sale contingency. It's dependent on the home getting an offer and actually selling. A home close contingency is when your property that you need to sell in order to buy it is actually under contract, and there's a much higher percentage that it closes. The odds of either of those really getting accepted in this kind of market is kind of slim, but it always depends on the situation, which I'm going to say a lot as we go through this process. But that's an example of like a contingency. Another thing is going to be like your attorney, review and inspection, like how long is that period, all sorts of things like that. There's a lot to really go into. I mean, we could go like print out a purchase contract and go through line by line, but I'm sure that would bore you guys. But if that wouldn't bore you, let me know and I'd be happy to go through it with you because I think it's fun. But let's say you submit that offer. It either gets accepted, rejected, or countered. If it gets accepted, that's great. If it gets rejected, not so great. And if they counter you, well, this is where your agent's going to like really put their thinking cap on, go to bat for you, and see how we can get this deal done. It's kind of a really fun part for me. I'm kind of competitive a little bit. I like to win, so I want to win these offers for you guys. Say your offer gets accepted, then we're going to get into inspections. Now, for inspections, you're going to get a general home inspection. I would always recommend getting a general home inspection. I wouldn't recommend, if you are going to like waive your inspection on the purchase, just waive the requests. I wouldn't like waive your inspection, but it always depends on the situation. You want to know what you're getting into with the property. So having a general home inspection is a good idea. We're going to want to know, is there any mold in the property? Is there, faulty electric? The health and safety things are really big. You're going to get a long list. Don't sweat the small stuff though. If it's like, hey, this light switch, doesn't work, or this paint's chipped, most of the time you're buying a 20-year-old house, there's going to be problems with it. But don't sweat the small stuff, like chip paint, squeaky doors, all sorts of things like that. And also, you can actually lose your earnest money if you go back and you're requesting a bunch of like minor things. So that's why it's important to have a good attorney too, because you want them. This is where the attorney is really, really, really important, is when you get an offer accepted and now you're under contract. Because they're going to make sure everything's kind of on the right timeline. They're going to make sure you're not losing your money. They're going to make sure that you're protected. Really is what it is. So having a strong attorney who knows a lot about this, process, the legal wording of things is very important because you don't want to lose your earnest money. Earnest money, actually, if we go back to offers in Illinois, is typically going to be 1% to 3% of the purchase price, and sometimes people think that that's on top of their down payment. So say you're doing 5% down, where am I going to come up with another 3% for earnest money? It's actually, it's part of your down payment that'll be like credited back to you on your, your closing disclosure. Yeah, there's that. Let me see if anything else is going on over here. What did this? Oh man. I don't know what's going on there. I'm gonna have to read all that in a minute. But say everything comes back and the inspection's all good, then we're gonna be wanting to close on the property. Closing is usually a pretty fun time. Sometimes things can get a little funky, but closing should be a fun time. It's when you're gonna sign all your paperwork, get your keys, and you're actually gonna be a homeowner, and it's gonna be a big day. But what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna transfer all your utilities, and your trash, your water, everything, your electric. So when you get there, you make sure everything's good. If you plan on, say, replacing the floors or painting or changing things out, I would say do that. I actually missed the final walkthrough. You're going to do a final walkthrough before you close. Everything's good there, then you're going to close. And then we're going to do all this stuff. So if you have any big stuff that you want to do it before you move all your stuff in. Say you even just want to get the place deep cleaned again. It's going to be broom clean, but people's standards of clean are different. So if you would like to get the home deep clean, do it before you move all your stuff in there. It's going to save you a lot of headache in the long run when you're trying to move the couch and vacuum and do all that stuff. But yeah, other than that, closing is a pretty fun time. And that kind of takes us to I guess kind of the end of this presentation. So if you have any questions about this, now would be the time to ask. See if I can turn this around. I don't think, can I? Whoa, look at that. Is this backwards actually when I'm like this? Yeah. All right, let's see. We got some questions. What questions do people have? Are these 6 steps the same for buying land or commercial property? In general, it's going to be pretty much the same. You're going to want to meet with someone. It's not my area of expertise, but from what I understand, you're going to meet with someone. You're going to look at properties. You're going to put offers in. Where it's going to be different is kind of in the language that's used in the contracts, what kind of inspections you're going to do, and actually how the offer is structured as well. The contracts I'm familiar with are residential real estate contracts. I'm sure they have their own contracts for commercial property or land. How often are homes failing the inspection portion in DuPage County? It's not like a home will just flat out fail an inspection, but they can fail specific parts of an inspection. Thank you for the update, Anthony. Now I'm reading this. They can fail certain aspects of the inspection. So if there's not a railing on the steps walking up, that could be a fail because that's a safety violation. Is it really a big deal? It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you how to be safe. That's up to you. All right, I got to go back here because we got some good chats in here. We had a lot of people join, a lot of people leave. Thanks for sticking around, whoever's in here. All right, Brandon and Anthony were having a bit of a conversation. Brandon made some mistakes. That's cool. All right, that's it. We don't really have too many other questions, but the offer that I have for you for sticking around in here, guys, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about what we do. So we had the overview, kind of went over everything, but a couple of the things that you get when you work with us. So we actually have easy exit buyer agreements. You can hire us today and fire us tomorrow. The only thing that I ask is for feedback of why, so I can get better at my job. Also, we have a communication guarantee. We guarantee that you will hear from us on a regular basis, that we will respond to you. A lot of people, the reason that we have made this a guarantee is because we've heard from a lot of people, they start working with an agent and they kind of go ghost. So we don't want to leave you in that position, especially when you're buying a really expensive home. I don't think I mentioned it actually. The median sales price in DuPage County is $487,000 right now. So you want someone who's going to respond when you're buying a $487,000 house. We also have the love it or leave it guarantee. So if for any reason you buy your house and you want to, you need to sell your home, maybe you're transferring, out of state for work, for any reason that you need to sell your home in the next 12 months, we'll sell it for no listing commission. So that's something that we could talk about as well. We don't want you to end up in a place that you don't love. And then also we have our VIP home hunting service, and that's kind of what I talked about with how we're going to go search for homes off market for you. Since there's only about a month of inventory out there, there's a lot of people who want to move but can't actually find the right property for them. So we're building our own private list of inventory, and we'd love to do that for you. I have a lot of fun having those conversations and making those advertisements. So what we'll do is we'll put out advertisements. We've got a buyer looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath ranch over in Wheaton who wants to sell their house. I'll be reaching out to agents, seeing if they have anything coming soon that's not on the market. Because if you're only going after the homes that everyone's seen on the market and you're just hoping and waiting that you're going to find the right deal for you, you might be waiting for a while if you have very specific needs. Like, what if I want a house with a sauna? I'd like a sauna, but we got to go out and find it. It's not just going to appear. And then, like I said, we're going to be maybe door knocking those homeowners as well. We're going to be finding off-market properties list. So those are kind of the 3 things. You can fire us at any time. You are guaranteed to hear from us. Love it or leave your home in 12 months, and we'll sell it for no listing commission. And we have a VIP home hunter service for our private clients. So that's kind of it. I wonder who stuck around here for the whole thing. But yeah. Oh, we got someone else join. We just wrapped up the whole presentation. So if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask them. It was actually pretty good. That was about 40 minutes. I probably rambled too much. Thank you very much, Sophia. No other questions, though, I think. I really appreciate you guys being on here. If you have any questions about real estate, I'd be happy to answer them. I love doing this, answering your questions. You can just send us a message in the DMs. I can return them there. Thank you very much, Anthony. Any other questions, guys, please just reach out to me. I think a lot of you guys have my number. So 224-219-1008, that's my work number, easiest way to reach me. That was the goal, Anthony. Thank you. See, I had to do it the other way so it wasn't all backwards on here. I think I covered everything I wanted. Sorry if I was reading out of here too much, but I think that's it, guys. So I really appreciate you being on here. This was a lot of fun for me to go through everything, hopefully educating people on some things they didn't know about. And maybe I'll see you at the same time next week. Stay tuned, though. That'll be coming soon. Last chance for questions. I'm about to end it. All right. Peace, guys.